Mary had a little lamb.
The fourth, we believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Donald Trump was willing to sacrifice our capital to allow law enforcement officers to be beaten and brutalized in his name and to violate the law and the Constitution in order to seize power for himself. I don't care if you are a Democrat or a Republican or an independent. That is depravity, and we must never become numb to it. Any person who would do these things can never be trusted with power again. We must defeat Donald Trump on November 5th. In that election 20 years ago, when we were campaigning in Wisconsin and all across the country, we were campaigning as compassionate conservatives. What January 6th shows us is that there is not an ounce of compassion in Donald Trump. He is petty, he is vindictive, and he is cruel. And Donald Trump is not fit to lead this good and great nation.
Wow, that's really strange bedfellows we're making here, and they say that's what happens in the politics. So I just have to keep on telling myself to ignore the fact that her father, had no compassion at all for people. He liked to torture naked people and sick dogs on them in prisons. Okay. So listen, we had to partner with Stalin in order to beat Hitler. So I guess that's where we are. And, listen, there are so many Republicans now that are never Trumpers. There are so many Republicans now that are crossing the aisle to endorse Kamala Harris. Now, either Kamala Harris is magical in her persuasion and her skills at persuasion, or they're really, convinced that Donald Trump is poison and that he is, the next Adolf Hitler. Other than that, I can't imagine why people are, doing what they're doing, coming out physically, standing on a stage. I mean, it's one thing to call it in, right? And say, well, I can't endorse him. I'm never going to, vote for, or not even. I mean, you had Bill Barr who said, he shouldn't be in the office. He's irresponsible. He's not capable. He's, but are you going to vote for him? Yeah. We lived through all that, right? We lived through so many people saying that and doing that and, insinuating that he was a madman, that he was, a cancer on the presidency. He was a blight on democracy. He was deadly. He was, awesomely dangerous. He was, he was going to bring a hellscape of, deportations, massive, across the, and, but yeah, I can't vote for a Democrat. And now, oh my, the tide has turned. So you have not just Liz Cheney, but her father, Dick Cheney, which is why I bring up the whole torture situation, because it's very bizarre that his daughter is, arguing that there's not an ounce of compassion in, Donald Trump. And I agree. But that she would turn out this way. Sometimes the apple does fall far from the tree. I'll take it is what it is. My poor sick dog, right? I told you he had surgery on Monday. Today's Friday. I've had to do so much aftercare. You got to have drops and antibiotics. And this goes, 9 different drops, and 4 of them go in the left eye and the right eye. And 3 of them only go in the left eye. And 2 of them only go in the right eye. And then the math doesn't add up, and you're like, wait, did I put the left eye in the right eye? And what am I? But I got a tail wag. And I'll take the win. So that's what we have to do here. We have to just take the win. You find the joy where you could get it. It was a great endorsement. Whoever, she sits there in Wyoming and writes her material, good for her, because it's really good. I mean, Didn't she write Sisters? I don't know. Do you remember that book? I'm the only one that remembers it. All right. So Kamala Harris, talked about how Liz Cheney is, everything I wish I could be, apparently.
I do want to say a bit more about Liz Cheney. You all know her leadership, and she has obviously and so importantly been a leader for the people of Wyoming, but she has also been an extraordinary national leader and has served with great honor.
True.
And she not only, as she has talked today, recognizes that character is among the most important attributes of leadership, but she also personifies that attribute. And she possesses some of the qualities of character that I most respect in any individual and any leader. Courage, especially at a moment like this, where there are so many powerful forces that have been intent on trying to demean and belittle and make people afraid. And there are many who know it is wrong, and then there are those who have the courage to speak out loudly about it and the conviction to speak truth. And, it is so admirable when anyone does it, and especially when it is difficult to do in an environment such as this. But Liz Cheney really is a leader who puts country above party and above self, a true patriot, and it is my profound honor to have your support.
All right. You convinced me. There's room in our big tent of Kamala supporters for Liz Cheney. I just don't know that there's room in my head for joining forces with Liz Cheney. I just don't. I don't know. I mean, I'm an older person. I lived through the Iraqi, situation. I watched ISIS be formed as a result of the leadership provided by her Republican father and his president. 2 terms of that. So it's a little difficult to make room in my head for, hey, rah, let's join forces with the Cheneys. I actually had to cut off that last little bit there from Kamala's, explanation for why we should respect the courage and the character of Liz Cheney to step up to the plate in these troubled times when powerful forces are aligned against her, to the point where, and I'll give her this, to the point where Liz Cheney headed up the January 6th Select Committee and lost her congressional seat for doing it. And she did it well. And she did it meticulously. And she did it with video, which is something I had been, screaming at congressional members for years to do. And she stepped up to the plate and she conducted those hearings in a way that the American people could participate, could, fully see what happened, fully understand what happened. And she did it really well. So I'm thinking Liz Cheney is like a really, really good lawyer, because that was her role as the head of the January 6th Select Committee, was presenting the case. And she did it so well that I almost could see her as, Attorney General of the United States, Supposed to be a nonpartisan position. I don't know what would be better than that in this weird way. But just realize I'm trying to make room in my head for joining forces with Liz Cheney. It's hard. It's a hard thing. For those of you who don't know anything about the Cheneys, just enjoy the moment. Just accept that we have a very big tent, that Democrats allow for all kinds of opinions in our party. And this is why we have earned the reputation of being in charge of Democrats is like herding cats. This is what we heard. So all of the bitter old bitches, all of the, single cat ladies, single dog ladies, all of the ladies, we're all welcome. We're all welcome in the big tent of the Democratic Party. And, I guess I'm just going to have to get used to that. And I will. Someday.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
Okay, so how was the jobs report?
Wow. Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. So the expectations were around 140 to 150,000 jobs added net last month. Take a look at that blowout. 254,000 jobs added net. Also, the unemployment rate, we were expecting that to come in around 4.2%. That actually went down in the month to 4.1%. In terms of what's adding this, the food sector, we're perhaps going out and drinking more ahead of the presidential election. Who knows? That was certainly a contributor. Construction also added. Healthcare was a big gainer as well. Government jobs adding. It doesn't get better for the White House and for the Harris campaign than a jobs number like this, 1 month out from the presidential election.
Yes, that's true. And the numbers are tightening. When you ask people who do they trust more to fix the economy, there was a large gulf, a large, gorge between the numbers that Kamala was getting with regard to confidence in, fixing the economy versus, the non-compassionate one versus the insurrectionist. And now that gulf, that chasm is just nary a little trickle of, dewdrop between them. It's the sweat of the belly of the snake that is separating, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in the numbers on who do you trust more on the economy, because things have gotten good. Things have gotten real good. And the idea that there's a lag time between, when you first find out that the recession has not happened and that we've gotten into a soft landing situation and that we were able to beat back inflation down to the target goal of 2%. We're at 2.2% inflation. So we're like, just a proverbial hair away from, the target, and that we were able to do it without a recession. And by recession, I mean you would see 2 quarters of negative growth if you were going to have a recession, right? Like Donald Trump, we were in a recession, a manufacturing recession. We had 2 quarters of negative growth in the manufacturing sector ahead before COVID. And very few people were talking about it. I know I was, and this is how I know it, because we were talking about it. We're going, look at these numbers. My God, people are getting laid off from manufacturing jobs. Lordstown was closing. The Carrier plant was offshored. Do you know what I mean? And you could see that his policies were having a very negative effect on manufacturing in this here country, even though his whole thing was, America first and made in the USA. And it was a lie. Even his hats were made in China. There's nothing legit about him, okay? But anyway, we saw that there was a manufacturing recession, 2 quarters of negative growth, and then COVID, and everybody forgot about the economy because we were all trying to stay alive. Priorities, people. We have our priorities. So there you have it. But now you see 254,000 new jobs added, right? What does Marco Rubio do for Donald Trump today? Like his little Florida henchman, okay? Like, the guy that Donald Trump spent almost a year calling little, tiny, teeny, okay? Marco Rubio. He actually tweets out that the numbers are fake. Swear to God, that the numbers are fake. That the economy is bad because he thinks so. And Donald Trump needs you to believe that this place here that we live is a hellscape. He needs you to believe that. He needs you to believe that people are being raped at the supermarket or whatever, that we're being murdered in our own beds, okay? And not by police officers. No, that does happen, though. No, that it's a hellscape that people are carrying refrigerators out on their backs, right? And that they're carrying calculators. And this is the hand gesture he does. I don't know. I guess somebody with a Apple Watch was talking to him and showing him I don't know. And then he started riffing and he repeated their hand gesture. But that they're carrying refrigerators and that they're wearing calculators to keep the amount of stealing under $950 because he invented this lie that Kamala Harris somehow changed the law, although she's never been a California state legislator, never, but she changed the law and made it, legal in his crazy fantasy mind to steal anything under $950. Which is crazy. It was actually a Republican governor that made stealing under $950 worth of goods a misdemeanor. It's still illegal, but it's a misdemeanor, not a felony. Okay, so there's that. But he needs it for it to be a hellscape. So he needs for people to believe that even though they're responding to surveys and people are asking them, how's the economy for you? And people are saying, well, for me, it's okay. But over there, somebody I know can't afford bacon. Because the president, the ex-president is telling me that that's the case. Somewhere over there. And that's kind of what's going on with Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio needs to say, for Donald Trump, someone over there isn't working. Now, we're all working, and Florida's working, and New York is working, and Ohio is working, and Wisconsin, but somewhere people aren't working, and that's why the numbers are fake. All right. Well, out of nowhere today, I guess, Dark Brandon showed up. Did you see any of this today on the TV? It was really pretty, surprising and amazing and fun and good. And, we've had a lot of good news lately. I mean, Bruce Springsteen endorsed yesterday. He endorsed, obviously, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Tim Walz in Minnesota tried to make a Bruce Springsteen day. I think a day in March he tried to make it Bruce Springsteen. He loves Bruce Springsteen. But anyway, there was a lot of good news yesterday. The dock worker strike. Remember I told you yesterday, this guy is not aligned with Donald Trump, even though the Wall Street Journal planted that in a lot of people's heads yesterday. That, Harold Daggett, who's the president of the Longshoremen's Union, that he was, calling for a strike because he was aligned with Donald Trump. Just because he talks like a Jersey guy. Somehow it made him, all mobbed up and with Trump. Not true. See, he knows Trump because they're both, hanging out on the New York docks, for years. So, but obviously I was not buying into that bull crap. And so here you have success in the dock workers' quest for an increase in pay. And what I say yesterday, they wanted, they had offered the 6 owners of the ports had offered the longshoremen a 50% increase. And Harold Daggett said, no, we want 77%. My guys will cripple you. We'll cripple you over here is what we'll do to you. Ow! Right? And so they got a 62. I said it's going to end up somewhere around 60. 62% is what they got. God, I'm good. Sometimes even I shock me. But, I mean, that one wasn't too hard to call. So there was a lot of good news yesterday. A lot of it. And then all of a sudden, today I was prepared to tell you how great Friday was. And you know what else happened yesterday? Anybody remember Tina Peters, the county clerk, the election supervisor, the clerk in Mesa County, Colorado, who was aligned with Mike Lindell and spreading all these falsehoods about, the ballots didn't match up with the poll books and that the machines were flipping, She got sentenced yesterday. Now, we knew she was brought in guilty 3 months ago, but there's always a 90-day, in between the day you get adjudicated and then your sentencing. She got 9 years. 9 years in the Colorado State Correction System. I mean, so much good.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay, this was just a few minutes ago. It was very random. It was not expected. It was a big surprise. It was something that I think he just did spontaneously, spur of the moment. Joe Biden just appeared in the press briefing room, just randomly. Nobody thought he was going to. He wasn't scheduled to do it. In fact, Kamala Harris was on stage in Michigan at the same time. But the news has been so freaking good that, we got the jobs numbers, and then the port strike has been suspended until at least January. They got a 62% raise. That's enough to hold them until January, meaning they did, they did what was in the best interest of the union. And in the best interest of the union, they took the pay raise and they kicked the can down the road to January, praying that Kamala Harris is the next president of the United States and would help them get some of the more detailed demands met, the things about automation, right? But they didn't want to, ruin the supply chain. They weren't in the, they already saw that, and this Daggett guy, he made the best move you could possibly make. The guy is smart, okay? And because he talks like a tough guy, everybody thinks he's like a Trump supporter. No, it was perfectly obvious to me that he was, not a Trump supporter. And, the Wall Street Journal was the one who put that story out there, saying, isn't it interesting that there's a photo of him? Of course there's a photo of him with Donald Trump. They're both from Queens, for God's sake. That's number one. Number two, the guy expressed sympathy for Donald Trump being shot at in Butler, Pennsylvania, and told the union, hey, man, all of a sudden you had a rally and it turned into a battlefield. That is not the America I want to see. So, you know what? Pray for everybody that was hurt and for the man who died. And that got twisted up, too. But anyway, the news was really good. So Biden showed up in the press room today, and the entire press corps was just like, oh my God, and it was fun. It was really fun. But then they got to, he gave his speech, taking, because he deserves all the credit in the world for saving the economy from the abyss. Number one, getting us to a soft landing when opening up the economy because COVID was dealt with caused a massive run on purchases by consumers. And we saw inflation because supply chains were still broken and people wanted stuff. Yesterday we were talking about the supply chains weren't even broken and people were stealing. No, they were stealing. They were hoarding toilet paper and paper towels. And I was like, excuse me, but those are some of the things that are made right here in America. Paper towels and toilet paper, 90% made in America. And people were in there just clearing off the shelves in Costco and my Publix, my little grocery store, I mean, I couldn't believe the stupidity of it. I just could not believe it, but it was going on. And, so Biden gets to take credit for it was Jeff Zients, who's Joe Biden's chief of staff, and him and a whole bunch of the labor people, from Biden's, administration, that made a phone call yesterday morning at 5:30 a.m. Okay, and then some of them got on planes and they went and met the guys in New Jersey to, see to make sure that the owners understood which side the administration was on. And the administration was on the side of the workers. And they wanted the carriers, they wanted these 6 guys who owned the port to understand what was going to happen. And I'm 100% sure that they made the same argument that I did to you yesterday. And that was that if Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, you know what happens to imports. He's talking about a 60% tariff across the board. 60%. So, if you bought something that, was like a refrigerator that had to be imported from, I don't want to say China because, I guess LG is what, a North Korean brand? South Korean brand, sorry. That was a little scary. But, yeah, so anyway, tariffs on things like that cost $1,000. Now it's a $1,600 thing, and they were telling the carrier, he's going to come in here and he's going to put tariffs on things. There won't be any imports. There won't be any ports. There won't be any containers coming here. There won't be any longshoremen, okay? What are you rooting for here? What do you want to have happen? Because if you tank this economy right now, 30 days out from a presidential election, that's what you're going to get. And I'm sure that the port owner said, there is a lot of truth to that. And also, this little detail. Things that were able to be imported by air freight were being imported by air freight. Okay, so there's that too. It's called competition. But anyway, when Biden walked into the press room, he was saying, hey, listen, I'm really proud of the union members and I'm really proud of the port owners. Everybody, collective bargaining works. And then he was touting the employment numbers. They were spectacular. Unemployment is 4.1%. Inflation is 2.2%. The numbers are the numbers, and the numbers are good. They're good. And I think he wanted to have a little victory party in the briefing room, and he is so worthy of it. So worthy. And what's the first question he gets asked? He gets asked about Marco Rubio's hellscape tweet saying the numbers are fake. The numbers are fake.
Florida Senator Marco Rubio described today's jobs report as having fake numbers. What do you make of that, and how worried are you that many Americans are hearing that the jobs numbers aren't real?
Well, look, I'm going to be very careful here. If you notice, anything the MAGA Republicans don't like, they call fake.
Yes. Good for him. Everything they don't like is fake. Everything they don't like. COVID was a hoax. Okay, the election was fake. Everything was rigged. I mean, anything they don't like is fake or rigged, or somehow they've been victimized by it. You know, Donald Trump goes out and crimes, right? He commits all kinds of felonies all over this country, right? To the point where everyone in his circle who isn't protected by presidential immunity or privilege, meaning couldn't be, examined while he was president, they've been disbarred. They don't have. I mean, Eastman. He lost it. He was a law professor. Can't teach law anymore. At the Claremont Institute, they let him go. Rudy Giuliani disbarred for life. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's the only, but he's being convicted of 34 felonies, right? And of course, he's the victim. He's the victim. The Justice Department is rigged. It's been weaponized against it. Anything at all that holds them accountable for whatever crazy crap they do. Raise the debt to like $8 trillion. Donald Trump raised our debt more than all the presidents before him combined. It's really, now he's saying that he's lying about Joe Biden not giving FEMA aid to Georgia and North Carolina, which is really, really rich because that's what Donald Trump did. He had to be shown that certain people voted for him before he would get any relief to them.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Starting today, tens of thousands of union workers will return back to work after heading to the picket line on Tuesday. It's good news because the shutdown could cost the U.S. economy up to $4.5 billion a day, and a lengthy strike could have led to higher prices and shortages of goods ahead of the holiday season. The union released a statement on Thursday expressing they had reached a tentative agreement on wages, and they've agreed to extend the master contract until January 15th.
Yay.
That's when they said they'll return to the bargaining table to negotiate all the other outstanding issues. So here's what we know so far. Sources telling CNBC that under this tentative deal, workers will see a near 62% wage hike over the course of 6 years. The union, remember, had originally asked for 77%.
Right.
This increase would potentially raise the top longshoreman's wage to just over $63 an hour at the end of that 6-year deal. That's an increase from $39 an hour. Now, NBC News has reached out to the union for any more details, but have not heard back. Now, President Biden also reacting to this deal, applauding the news, applauding both sides for coming together to reopen these ports, stating that Thursday's tentative deal represents critical progress toward a strong contract.
Right. And, collective bargaining actually worked. Besides for the argument that I just told you, remember that Donald Trump had confabbed or conversed with or recorded a Twitter space, an X space, whatever it was, with Elon Musk. Remember that? It was glitched out to the max. I mean, it was just, it doesn't go very smoothly on Elon's platforms. However, it was recordable, and, it was interesting because Trump told Elon Musk that he loves the way Elon deals with striking employees because Elon just fires them. And I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump would have fired all the longshoremen and replaced them with, I don't know, unskilled, untrained, low-wage workers, and then told the carriers, the port owners, automate the whole thing. Throw them out of work. Throw them out of jobs. Make this not a job anymore.
I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay, you're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone.
I mean, that's his solution to, anybody that defies him and his belief in you not being able to collectively bargain or to, get paid a fair salary for a week's work at a hazardous job on the freaking freezing cold docks of New Jersey, New York, Maine. Do you know what I'm saying? Just fire them all. And it just, remember, this isn't something that you just have to imagine. It has happened. When the air traffic controllers, which you would consider an essential job for air travel and safety, when they went on strike and Ronald Reagan was the president, he fired Patco. He fired all the workers. This is what the Republicans are all about. This is why the Wall Street Journal tried to paint Mr. Daggett as some sort of a mobbed up freak. Okay. They did that because they were trying to put into people's heads the idea that the union was, was acting as, the bad guy at the behest of somebody, right? And that the union wasn't really an honest broker in this, and that they were doing it to tank the economy for Donald Trump. Really, this was something that was done because the Wall Street Journal will take the side of any corporation over any worker any day, every day. And people started repeating that lie. It was just so interesting. And before I even went to the phone yesterday, I said, I know that there's going to be some, because I saw the lie. I read it. I knew what was out there. I understood it. And it got disseminated, not just the Wall Street Journal, but then, people who, steal from the main journalists, from the main newspapers, they started reprinting it on right-wing websites and, tweeting it and saying, this was a setup, to get Democrats to be anti-worker, to get us to turn against the longshoremen. Well, that wasn't about to happen here. So, but that Donald Trump, the reason why they kicked the can down the road and they're praying that Kamala Harris is the next president of the United States of America and that they get to deal with, her administration showing up for them at the collective bargaining table in January versus Donald Trump, who will fire every single worker because that's what he says he'll do. That's what he admires most about Elon. Elon doesn't give a damn about you. He doesn't give a damn about your life. He doesn't give a damn whether or not you get to go home. If he wants you to sleep on the floor, so he can, run X or whatever, then you'll sleep on the floor. Because if you don't, he fires you. Period. End of story. And no one's going to tell him about 40-hour work week. Nobody's going to tell him about workplace safety. Nobody's going to lecture him about any of it. He's going to do what he wants to do, and he wants a president who's going to let him. And then what happens when somebody, actually says, I'm not being paid fairly. I never get to go home. I'm sleeping on the freaking cafeteria floor. Well, then you're fired. You're fired. That's what he did. That's what Elon Musk did. When he took over Twitter, he fired like everybody. And the place is now a sewer. It's now a cesspool of disinformation, misinformation. It's a horror show. He took a fun place and turned it into a hellscape. This is what they do. So anyway, it was great to see Joe Biden today in the press room. It was great to see him, just goofing around and taking a victory lap because he totally deserves it. Look at that. All right. Feel-good moment of the week. And we had some really good moments this week. Really, really good ones. I think I tweeted this last night because I couldn't believe what I was watching. I saw somebody posted the sentencing of Tina Peters in Colorado. Okay, it was the best 10 minutes of video I have seen in forever. It was just chef's kiss beautiful. The judge, his name is Matthews Barrett. He had it up to here with her. Okay, but of course he gave her a chance to present remorse, to show the court that she was sorry for all the misinformation and disinformation. And of course, what she did was she was charged with nine different counts, and 4 of them were felonies. She literally got into the machines. Okay, she did what they were trying to do in Coffee County, which we saw on videotape, right? That Republican counties were going to go into the machines and they were going to take screenshots of random data and give it to Mike Lindell. And Mike Lindell would then say in some official, I sell pillows way, I know math. And so this was, this is the evidence I have that votes were flipped. And you're just looking at nothing, right? You're looking at nothing. And so she was convicted of felonies for trying to persuade officials to let her into the machines. She actually was able to do that. She had other people impersonate officials. She gave people fake IDs to make them pose as official. And so 4 of the things that she was charged with were felonies. And so when he was sentencing her, he gave her a chance to say, listen, it was a caper, it wasn't true. It was a lie. I'm sorry I did it. I'm sorry that people who now work in counting rooms across this country, that they've been threatened, that they've received death threats, that their lives have been threatened. I'm sorry about what happened in other states as a result of, me giving some sort of a weight to Mike Lindell's conspiracy fantasy. I'm sorry that, what happened to some of the people that were working in Atlanta, that they had to leave their houses, that they were made unsafe because of this kind of lying that went on. And I was, leading it in Colorado. But she didn't do that. Instead, she stood up and she tried to bamboozle the judge.
Move along. Votes, man. Sorry? I'm not going to let you go
that's
on
fine.
about things that are completely irrelevant to the sentence.
This is irrelevant.
No, it's not. I've let you go on enough about this, but the votes are the votes. You still didn't answer the question. If this is my ballot and I put it in the machine, whatever it tabulates is whatever it tabulates.
No, it doesn't. It changes.
You're not letting me finish.
Okay,
whatever
please.
it tabulates is whatever it tabulates. My hand vote, my ballot remains the same. They counted those ballots. Did they not?
I understand what you're saying, Your Honor.
Did they count the ballots?
No, the ballot images were changed, and that's what the total shows. Okay, I'll move off of this because I can see that I would encourage to read the report number 3.
I've read them, ma'am.
You've read all of them?
I've read those reports. They were given to me at some point, I believe.
Yes, I'm the judge in your case. So I read all the documents. You read all that. See, this is how they bamboozle people. They go, you couldn't have possibly read all these pages. You could. I read. There's no truth to that. When I cast a ballot by hand and I feed it into the machine, I don't care what the machine tabulates, because on the back end, they hand counted the paper and it matched the machine.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
All right, I need to share this with you. This is like the best video I have seen of justice being administered, justice being visited upon a criminal, an adjudicated criminal who engaged in conspiracies around our free and fair elections. Now, this seems to be a real turning point for a lot of Republicans and independents inside of the Trump administration and inside Congress and elsewhere, right? In the national security, community, you had letters being written by, 400 national security experts, all endorsing Kamala Harris. Now you have all these Republicans coming forward, like, obviously Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, and people who worked inside of the Trump administration. Olivia Troy, who was a Homeland Security person for Mike Pence, and Cassidy Hutchinson, who worked inside of the White House in the West Wing. And they're all endorsing, anybody that knew Donald Trump, except for Bill Barr, are now endorsing Kamala Harris. And it seems like the big cutoff, the big, a bright red line that they could not cross was effing with our elections, with taking away the miracle of American democracy, which is the peaceful transfer of power, and making that a violent episode and making it into a conspiracy theory and turning a bunch of really, really ill-informed people into a crazed, violent mob for his benefit. This seemed to be the turning point. So a lot has been made of what we were able to see on January 6th, and it should be, because what you didn't see was the people literally copping a squat and doing it on the floor of our Capitol. I mean, how disgusting a human being, how garbage of a human being do you have to be to do something like that? It's just like crazy. But this all happened at the local level too. So what you saw was in Coffee County, Georgia, you saw people who were, going to let Sidney Powell in to look at voting machines, to crack them open and have a little look. The same thing happened in Mesa, Colorado. Now, Mesa sounds like Arizona, but Mesa is a county in Colorado. And in Mesa, Colorado, you had a county clerk. Her name was Tina Peters, who was convicted 3 months ago of 9 counts of lawbreaking. 4 of those were felony counts, okay? They were attempting to influence a public servant, engaging in a conspiracy to defraud, official misconduct, okay? And the judge yesterday, who was sentencing her yesterday, actually, I mean, I played you the little bit where she had her last chance to express remorse, and she just kept on saying, you didn't read the papers. You didn't read the reports. The votes were being changed. And he's like, my paper ballot is my paper ballot. Whatever I marked on it is still there. And you went through a hand recount, and whatever I marked on my ballot was still there. And when you matched it up to whatever the machine tabulated my hand ballot to have said, it matched. Not just me, but every ballot matched. There was no vote flipping. There was no fraud. This did not happen. And she refuses to acknowledge. I mean, she was acting like she was really bat crap crazy. But he knew better, because he had been through the whole trial with her. And so when he got his few minutes to tell her why he was sentencing her to what turned out to be 9 years in the Colorado correction system, he really told it to her. Now, it was 10 minutes. I took the first 3 because it's stunning. It's the most beautiful thing you will hear if you're into justice.
Here, the defense has, and Ms. Peters in particular, has remained quite defiant, which is her right, but certainly not helpful for her lot today. And in arguing why I should impose a particular sentence, she tells me about her ailments, her loss, her struggles in life. But in reality, for those of you who may have been here earlier this morning and seen some of the folks who've occupied that chair before Ms. Peters, there could be not much in the way of a comparison in terms of the type of sympathy one would extend to Ms. Peters. Those folks didn't have 4 lawyers representing them. They didn't have a team of assistants helping them. They're not getting rides in private jets all over the country. No, the people who sit in that chair suffer, generally speaking, immeasurable trauma in life, struggle mightily with alcohol abuse, substance abuse, mental health struggles, family loss. They come from broken homes. The cards they were dealt were never the cards that you were dealt, Ms. Peters. So when I hear you discuss your husband, who sadly passed away recently, your family struggles, and your son, who served our country admirably and made the ultimate sacrifice, I consider it. And I note, too, that he honored his oath to the country, something that is not lost on me when considering the circumstances under which you find yourself here. Your age, limited criminal history, and the like are certainly somewhat mitigating. Your ties to the community are what they are, but your reputation at this point is poor because of what you've done here and after. Your lies are well documented, and these convictions are serious. I'm convinced you would do it all over again if you could.
Oh my God.
You're as defiant as a defendant as this court has ever seen. You don't have those histories of drug and alcohol abuse. There's no lifetime of trauma, not even close to the type of mitigating circumstances I would see from many folks who sit in that chair. No, to the contrary, Ms. Peters, you are a privileged person. You are as privileged as they come. And you use that privilege to obtain power, a following, and fame. And to be sure, there's no doubt in my mind that it's exactly what you wanted, and it defies all sense of common sense to believe when you suggested to me a few moments ago that you didn't want this attention. No, you crave it, ma'am. And there is no one in this courtroom who would consider that to be anything other than the absolute truth.
Damn, that is such a succinct description of MAGA as a general rule. Privileged people who use their positions to gain power and then abuse it. Abusing any position they can weasel their way into. He went on to say, and I wish I could play you the whole 10 minutes, but go to the homework section. It's in there, okay? He said, you abused your position and you're a charlatan who used and is still using your prior position in office to peddle a snake oil that's been proven to be junk time and time again. The damage you have done is immeasurable when you consider the integrity of our elections. And you know what her response after all this was? I'm not a criminal. I don't deserve to go to jail. All right, then.
As to counts 1 and 4, the judgment and sentence of the court is 3.5 years in the Department of Corrections. Those sentences will be concurrent to each other. As to count 2, the judgment and sentence of the court is 3.5 years consecutive to counts 1 and 4. As it relates to the misdemeanor charges, count 8 is 120 days in the Mesa County Detention Facility, concurrent to count 9 and 10, which will be 6 months in the Mesa County Detention Facility, consecutive to the prison sentence. The reason those sentences are consecutive is because those sentences are, as the prosecution stated, directly related to what it is that you did here in our community, the damage you caused this community, the breach of your oath to the electorate in Mesa County. Your sentence will be followed by 3 years of parole. You have 2 days of pre-sentence confinement credit.
2 days.
Anything I missed? Anything else we need to address?
Judge, I think you missed a sentencing on count 6.
Oh, I'm sorry. Count 6 is criminal impersonation. That's also consecutive. That's 15 months to the Department of Corrections.
And the
so it's 8.5 years total, plus the 6 months for a total of 9 years of incarceration.
9 years. 9 years of incarceration. I mean, I hope this serves as a deterrent to people who might want to, be somehow dishonest about what's going on in their counties with regard to the 2024 election. But that's what the judge said. You know, when they say, the people that went up to, ask for mercy or for a lesser sentence, they all said, oh, this isn't a violent crime. And, she doesn't deserve this. And the reason why you're sentencing her to all this time is because it's political. And he said, no, I'm doing this as punishment and deterrence for anybody else that might want to do what she did to damage the integrity of our elections, to create a false notion that our elections in this state, actually, he was talking about, and his county, Mesa County, that they're anything other than free and fair. He actually talked about how she has made Mesa County a laughingstock. He said, we used to be known for our beautiful scenery. We used to be known for our agriculture. And now we're the laughingstock of this country because of what you did, because you joined forces with these crazy people. And he won't have it. So, this is Mike Lindell's Chippy. Like this was his girl. And everything that she was doing, she was feeding to Mike Lindell. And she didn't even understand what she was seeing, and that what she was seeing was a free and fair election being hand counted, and that it all matched up. She gave everything, screenshots and all this stuff from the inside of the machines to Mike Lindell, who brought them to a symposium. Do you remember that? And suggested that what you were looking at was evidence of a fraud. But what you were looking at was a hand count that matched a machine count. There was no discrepancy at all. And they just lied.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
And who else can fill up? Only MAGA. But whoever fills big places like this at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? We're going to be meeting. We're going to think of it.
So there you have. Kamala Harris put that out. Okay, just in case you missed it. That is a split screen of the same exact place. So Donald Trump is being photographed from the back of the room where there are no people. And the camera is pointed towards him where there are people. And he's claiming these are the biggest crowds ever. And the place is half empty.
And who else can fill up? Only MAGA. But whoever fills big places like this at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? We're going to be meeting.
Look at that. Look, right there. I mean, this is crazy. The lying it's about everything. It's about things big. It's about things small. It's about elections being rigged. It's about somebody stole something from you. It's about Haitians in Springfield have somehow poisoned Springfield. It's about they're here illegally when they're here completely legally. It's about, just that he doesn't commit fraud when he does. That the justice system is weaponized against him when he fully intends to weaponize the justice system against Liz Cheney, for instance. I mean, if there's any reason at all, why Republicans are endorsing Kamala Harris, other than they had a bright red line, and that bright red line was violence at the Capitol, defecating on the floors, and, beating police officers with Blue Lives Matter flags. I guess that's the bright red line. However, there is also the threat of violence against them. This is what Biden was saying when he drew everybody's attention to the endorsement that Liz Cheney was making in Ripon, Wisconsin yesterday. It was Biden who told the media that, Kamala Harris and Liz Cheney were doing a joint appearance and that you really should watch it because it's not just an act of courage to endorse, but it was an act of physical courage. And, if you didn't understand that Donald Trump is willing to sacrifice, literally human sacrifice, guys like Mike Pence, which we learned this week too. That was another little detail we did not know. We learned through the Jack Smith brief to the court after the Supreme Court ruled that Donald Trump has immunity for official acts, and that the court, Judge Chutkan's court, has to now review January 6th with an eye toward whether or not Donald Trump was acting in an official capacity as the president of the United States to beat back fraud or to discover fraud in an election as the president of all the United States, Or was he acting as a candidate who was trying to hold on to power? And it was very clear from the brief that Jack Smith was having no trouble showing that what Donald Trump was doing was criminal, that he resorted to criminal activity in order to preserve his power, not to protect the United States from election fraud. And that's why it was so important to see Tina Smith be sentenced yesterday, because there was no election fraud there, right? The idea that Ruby Freeman and her mother, her daughter, were chased out of their houses, and that they needed protection, FBI protection, because people were threatening their lives because Rudy Giuliani lied about them passing around USB ports when it was really ginger mints. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, the damage that the lies do is real. So when you see Liz Cheney on the stage and endorsing Kamala Harris in person, which is a far cry from saying, no, I'm going to, endorse her, and then doing nothing about it, she is literally putting her physical self in harm's way. And that's something that should not be lost on anybody whenever you see an Olivia Troy or a Cassidy Hutchinson or an Adam Kinzinger or a Liz Cheney. I know it's, I was making jokes at the beginning of the show. It's very hard to, put in your mind that we're, a unified front with Liz Cheney. But that's what unity looks like, okay? And Liz, is literally risking her life. So is Kamala Harris, simply by running for president. And so is Tim Walz. And so is everybody who's endorsing Kamala Harris. Because God forbid Trump wins. He has said he has every right to use the justice system against people that were disloyal to him. And if you had any doubt in your mind that he plays politics with life and death, what you learned from Jack Smith's filing was not just what I said, that he was doing this as a candidate trying to hold on to power, but also that he was willing to sacrifice Mike Pence's life. When he was told in the White House that Mike Pence was under threat and that the Secret Service had to intervene and that they were going to take him out of the Capitol and bring him to a secure location, Donald Trump's literal answer was, so what? So what? He waited about 15 minutes because he was figuring out what does he do next in his crime, his ongoing crime. And he then tweeted at 2:24 in the afternoon, Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what he was supposed to do. And that's when the crowd started screaming, hang Mike Pence. So he actually made choices as a candidate trying to hold on to power. Certainly not as a president who was trying to prevent fraud. And so we learned that he's willing to sacrifice life, human life, for his access to power or retention of power. Now, what's important about that is he's running around telling a new lie, and this new lie is awful. Donald Trump is projecting. This is what he did. He is accusing Joe Biden of withholding hurricane relief money from Florida, from Georgia, and from North Carolina. That is not happening. In fact, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump need to talk to each other, because J.D. Vance was out there thanking FEMA for all of the support that he sees being delivered to people, okay, and how grateful they are.
I think that one thing I've heard consistently from the governor is that FEMA has provided a lot of resources, and of course, we're very grateful to that.
So FEMA is providing a lot of resources, and they're very grateful. But Donald Trump is out there saying exactly the opposite, okay?
They stole the FEMA money just like they stole it from a bank so they could give it to their illegal immigrants that they want to have vote for them this season. You know, they're trying to get them on the voters' roll. We cannot let that happen.
That is not happening. It's just not happening, but he's doing that. Now, what's interesting about that, that's what he did. You remember Hurricane Maria. You know how many people died in Hurricane Maria? 3,000. People forget. 3,000 people died in Puerto Rico from Hurricane Maria. And Donald Trump refused to provide them aid. He didn't want to do anything for them because they didn't vote for him. He did the same thing with Hurricane Matthew. And he did the same thing with Orange County's wildfires. The people that worked inside the Trump administration on Homeland Security issues, like Olivia Troy, and now there's another person who was there, backing her up, testifying, that Donald Trump had to be shown that people in Orange County voted for him before he would release the disaster money.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Well, this story is really interesting. This is new information. We had covered his ambivalence around Hurricane Maria's response in Puerto Rico. There were 8 damning Inspector General reports about that particular one. Yeah. But this is an former official named Mark Harvey. He was in the resilience part of the National Security Council and had to literally, he says, show Donald Trump precinct by precinct vote tallies from Orange County to prove there were more Trump supporters there than in Iowa,
yeah, he said,
and that they deserved a wildfire.
Yeah, let me just read the quote. He said, we went as far as looking up how many votes he got in those impacted areas to show him these are people who voted for you.
Oh, my God.
And then on the other side of that, Ron DeSantis writes in his autobiography that after Hurricane Michael hit the Panhandle, he said to Donald Trump, these are your people. So instead of giving 75% federal coverage for the disaster, let's give him 100%. And he did. And that was a difference of maybe $300 million, depending on sort of favoritism. A president has discretion on the percentage based on usually the size of the disaster. In the end, Donald Trump did approve dozens of disasters in California, more than any other state. But this shows his transactional impulse, right? Everything is about how do I play this to my advantage? And what it does is it trickles down this conspiracy to now you have the Red Cross and FEMA fighting these theories that you're only going to get $750 and the rest of the money went to Ukraine.
Right. And you remember that? The rest of the money went to Ukraine. Now they're saying the rest of the money went to, illegals. Because they took FEMA money and they gave it to illegals so that they could buy houses. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And why does Trump do this? He does this because he did it. He did it. And so he knows it's something that can be done. Withholding disaster relief based on, red state, blue state. He did it not just in a red state, blue state. He did it with blue governors in red states, right? So you had North Carolina. In 2017, North Carolina was hit by a hurricane called Matthew. I don't know how many people remember this. About 20 people died, but the damage was estimated to be about $1 billion, like $929 million, almost $1 billion. And Donald Trump didn't like Roy Cooper being a Democrat, and so he said, okay, you know what? You're going to get $6 million. That's all he gave, because he doesn't like that there's a Democratic governor. He didn't like that California had wildfires. And when, Orange County had some of the biggest wildfires, he had to, they had to sit him down and show him that there were more humans that voted for him in Orange County, California, than there were humans that voted for him in Iowa, a state he won. But they had to count heads and show him. But there's a lot of Trump voters here. There's a lot. It wasn't enough to win, but there were a lot of Trump voters here, a lot. And so he said, oh, all right, well, we'll release some disaster money. So now he's out there saying that Biden stole the FEMA money, which tells me not only did he withhold disaster money, but something happened. There was some sort of a theft. When he overpays Ron DeSantis for what the federal government estimates will be the damages, in 2018, he overpays Ron DeSantis. He pays $350 million more than was requested in disaster relief money. Where did it go? Who's keeping track of that? Did they split it? Does Trump get a piece of it? Is it 50-50? Is it 70-30? Is it 0-0? I don't know. But I find it fascinating. And now you got the people that were inside the White House in the disaster relief area. You have Olivia Troy, who worked in the Department of Homeland Security for Mike Pence, right? She was his Homeland Security advisor. And she is endorsing Kamala Harris because of what she saw. And now you've got this other guy who's backing her up, saying, I saw it with my own eyes, too. He would withhold disaster relief until we could show him that the money, the funds were going to go to a place where there were a lot of Trump voters. And we had to sit him down. And we had to show him. It's very sick and it's very twisted. But we know that it's true because we saw it. When he went to Puerto Rico, he threw paper towels at them. And there were 9 Inspector General reports about his inaction in Puerto Rico after 3,000 Americans died there. Yes, Puerto Ricans are Americans. So, I mean, you know, it's really, it's an unbelievable situation when you remember it. And so his entire MO is to accuse others of doing what he did, hoping you don't know or won't remember that that's where the story came from in the first place. It was what he did. I mean, he did it again today. I saw him again today in Georgia. And this time he talked, Brian Kemp into doing some joint appearance with him. I don't know what's wrong with Brian Kemp. Honestly, he knows just exactly what type of a criminal Donald Trump is. Him and his voting supervisor, they all said he's got to stop this lie. People are going to get shot. People are going to get hurt. People are going to die. Remember him, Sperling? And Kemp, I mean, this was the whole Georgia, plot. This was the whole scheme. It was so disgusting what he did, and he focused it on, these 2 women who did nothing but volunteer to, tabulate votes. Rudy Giuliani lost his law license because of that, but honestly, he's still playing this game. And Brian Kemp knows it, and he still did a joint appearance with him today. See, this is why when you do see somebody like Liz Cheney, for all the kidding around, it's really quite an exceptional thing and selfless thing that she did to show up for Kamala Harris and say, my bright line that I will not cross is stealing an election, not allowing for the peaceful transfer of power, denying that the election was free and fair to this day, saying that you had nothing to do with a riot that caused 140 police officers to be maimed. That's her bright red line. And it's a good one. It's a very good one. It has nothing to do with policy. It has to do with democracy. And when I read about this and when I understand, I saw him today in Georgia do that again. He lied today in front of Brian Kemp, who stood on that stage with him and didn't interrupt the lie. And the lie was that they had taken $1 billion from FEMA and gave it to illegals. He said it again today. It is false. Congress appropriates the money from FEMA, tells it where it has to put the money. And then the money that is separate from FEMA is the Department of Homeland Security. Those two do not mix. FEMA doesn't take money out of FEMA disaster relief and give it to the Department of Homeland Security.
Fatality. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
In 2016, Donald Trump said he would choose only the best people to work in his White House. Now those people have a warning for America. Trump is not fit to be president again. Here's his vice president.
Anyone who puts himself over the Constitution should never be president of the United States.
I cannot in good conscience endorse Donald Trump this year.
His defense secretary.
Do you think Trump can be trusted with the nation's secrets ever again?
No. I mean, it's just irresponsible action that places our service members at risk, places our nation's security at risk.
His national security advisor.
Donald Trump will cause a lot of damage. The only thing he cares about is Donald Trump.
And the nation's former highest-ranking military officer.
We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. We don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
Take it from the people who knew him best. Donald Trump is too big a risk for America.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Yeah. So there are people who are, Republican, who have been inside the White House, who have been closest to Donald Trump, and almost to a person, they will not vote for him. Almost to a person. The only outlier here is seems to be Bill Barr. Don't ask me why. I'm not really sure, but you everybody that worked in that, from Esper to Milley to I guess General Mattis is a no. Bolton. I mean, like I said, in my head, having strange bedfellows. I mean, in that way, when I see Bruce Springsteen endorse, I go, okay, so that would be a good bedfellow, not a strange one. Why are all my bedfellows strange ones? I don't know. Like Bolton, really? I got a Pence, mommy, ew. But all of them, Stephanie Grisham and Alyssa Farah Griffin and Sarah Matthews and Mike Pence and Arizona former Senator Jeff Flake. So where is Mitt Romney, though? See, this is an interesting one. Like, where is old Mitts? Where's Mittens? He needs to come out wherever you are, and get on the democracy train and start to say, tell people in Utah, this is not a safe bet for you. This won't go well. This is not going to be the country that you think it is if he is real. Where is Mitt Romney? I don't understand why he won't do it. I really don't. But he's out there and he's lying to the people. So why was he with Kemp? Okay, here's a good one for you to ponder all weekend long. So we have a little problem in North Carolina, right? We have a little problem. So is it North Carolina? Yes, it's North Carolina. We have the lieutenant governor of a state that's been decimated by a hurricane that literally is missing hundreds of people. The death toll is over 200 at this point. It's about 219, but they've been waiting to have waters recede and mud, being stable enough for the cadaver dogs to go in. They're already marking houses with the, if you lived in a place where there's been a disaster, especially hurricane prone place, like they go in, the FEMA does, the National Guard does, local police do, and they put X's and O's on houses. X's mean that the house has been searched, and an O means there's nobody in there, right? And they go looking for people who are missing. And there's hundreds and hundreds of missing people. So this death toll of around 200 now is going to increase in North Carolina. Their lieutenant governor is nowhere to be found. You know who I'm talking about? Right, Mark Robinson, Black Nazi, Mark Robinson, peeper. I like to peep through the, the school bathrooms. I like to look at the women, the girls, the young girls when I was a kid. I used to touch myself. The porn poster, right? The one that likes to watch transgendered porn. It's like his favorite little, lane that he likes to, it's his niche. Like if he was on Pornhub, that's what he would choose, because you have so many choices and it's very niche-y. And, that's his. And he declared that. And we now know that about that fat bastard, okay? And I don't really want to know that about that fat bastard, but I do. But here's the thing. His state has just been decimated. He wants to be the governor. He's the lieutenant governor now. And he wants to be the governor. And Trump endorsed him. And Trump is out there accusing the Biden administration of not being responsive. Where is the man that wants to be governor who is currently the lieutenant governor? Where is he? Why isn't Trump stumping with him? Why is he in Georgia with Kemp saying that Biden is stealing the FEMA money, which is not happening? It's not true. Why is that? Because he knows that Mark Robinson could cost him North Carolina. And without North Carolina, he cannot win. And that is the sad transactional truth about Donald Trump in the disaster arena, in an emergency. Remember we used to have those commercials like, who are you going to call at 3 o'clock in the morning? You know, like who's going to be on the other end of the phone when they call at 3 o'clock in the morning? He's going to be on his golden toilet, posting or throwing things at the TV because he's, rewatching something that didn't go his way. This is a very sad state of affairs. I cannot believe, and I can't make myself believe this, okay? And I'm trying because it's crunch time. We're like 30 days out, right? Early voting has started in many places. Mail-in ballots have arrived. I saw Howard must have requested a mail-in ballot because he's going to be a poll worker. And I saw it arrive. And I was like, I thought that was our little romantic thing. I thought we were going to vote together. I mean, here you are going behind my back requesting an absentee ballot. I can't believe you. But they're telling us that the polls are very tight. They're telling us that. I just cannot believe that that is true. And I know, listen, I know that this is not the time to express my belief. And it's just to tell you, listen, you need to check in your state and find out if early voting has started. If you now need to request a mail-in ballot, please do so. Some states you don't. Florida used to be one where you didn't have to request a mail-in ballot, but this time you do because we have, Ron DeSantis as our governor, a man who decides that when there's the threat of a strike from the longshoremen's union, instead of, siding with the working people who could, actually get paid a decent wage, like $100,000 for a 40-hour work week in a dangerous job that most people, don't really want to do in freezing cold ports like the one in Portland, Maine, or in New York, or the one in New Jersey, the ports in New Jersey. Instead of advocating for the working people, he actually called out the National Guard to go to the ports. For what? Incoming? I mean, what were you staging for? It's not exactly Lebanon yet. Very strange reaction to a strike. But this is what we got. This is who's in charge of this and that. I'm telling you right now, the idea that that man, that thing, that felon, that groper, that sexual assaulter, that lying sack of the chaos and confusion that comes with him. I cannot believe America's going, yeah, put me down for that. That's what I want. If there's wildfires, I want a guy who has to sit there and we have to make him believe that there are enough voters in that particular part of the world, in that particular part of the country, that he should release disaster aid. That if you have a Democratic governor, even if your state votes for him, he'll punish the governor by withholding money from FEMA. And then but supposedly that's where we are. So get busy, everybody. Make your voting plan. Everyone needs one. Do it. And have a good weekend.